to me, sales is one of the best jobs in the world. You get to serve and help customers with their strategic initiatives, and it is the path to freedom, and always better, never best. Everyone looks at someone and goes, "Oh wow, they're the best." If anyone asks me, I'm saying, no, I make mistakes every single day. I'm still making mistakes in everything I do. I'm never best, always better. It's switching from selling to serving, and this is not a fake it till you make it thing. You need to really ask yourself, do you truly believe in serving your customer? Because commission bread, customers will sense it. You'll give it off.
You missed it your first year, right? You're learning the ropes, a lot of transition. What shifted? Did you make any big changes? Because then you went again from missing quota to 350, 300%, making $1 million. That you didn't just hit plan, you went way triple, quadruple plan. I'm curious kind of what shifted after the first year of like, maybe this isn't working, or was it simply just trust the process, or did you change what you did to be able to really triple down, quadruple down? Welcome everyone to this month's Fireside Chat. And this one is going to be a lot of fun because I'm here with my partner in crime, my former sales engineer in the Strategic Enterprise Select segment of Salesforce, Mark O'Leary. Mark and I worked together for 3 years. He was the #1 SE all 3 years we worked together. We were very close, and we kind of did some pretty big things at Salesforce. It was the year that I finished #1, went to club every year. He went to club, and we just really had a lot of fun. I won't share stories of what we got into, but we traveled a lot of places with a lot of customers. And Mark had saw the success firsthand of what's possible as an account director, decided to switch into sales, and within just a couple years was a top seller at Salesforce, finished 350% of quota in FY22, 302% in FY23, made millions of dollars, and decided he was going to call it quits. And he is live now from Culebra off the coast of Puerto Rico. He's been sailing now for, how long have you been on this sailing trip around the world?
I picked up my boat new from getting built in Cape Town, South Africa in May 23.
Wow.
We sailed it in May 23 from Cape Town, South Africa, up the South Atlantic coast off Brazil, up through the Caribbean, up to Annapolis, Maryland. And during that time period, I was still working for Salesforce as well. I did conference calls with Starlink, which is what I'm on right now, working flawlessly. Typically, but I don't want to jinx it. Murphy's Law. Don't jinx myself.
Careful.
Yeah. But yeah, so we've been on it since 23, just cruising around the world.
So May 2023, so almost 2 years. And how long have you been retired from corporate sales now?
It was January of last year.
So a year and 4 months. Wow. Well, congratulations, buddy. I'm when I heard about your success, we've been trying to have this call for over a year. We've been talking about it, but you've been in one port or another. So the fact we're able to make this happen is pretty awesome. I just want to, I guess for everyone here, like, was this part of the plan? Did you always want to use sales to like sail the world, and you're with your family, just kind of orient, because I always talk about sales as a gateway to live the life of your dreams. And you're kind of doing that right now. And I'm just curious if that was always the plan, to make so much to be able to do this, or was it just you got sick of sales and you're like, I'm done, I'm going to follow this dream? Or how did this all come about?
I'm still passionate about sales. I still love sales. Because, to me, it's one of the best jobs in the world. You get to serve and help customers with their strategic initiatives. You get to, really tackle challenging problems for the largest companies in the world. And it is the path to freedom. And so I still love sales, but I am loving the fact that I've stepped away from corporate America for the time being on a sabbatical without an end date.
It's like a dad joke. That's a dad joke, Mark.
Well, yeah. So we're on a sabbatical. So yeah, what happened was I was back and forth. I was, more than 10 years at Salesforce, and Salesforce gives you this opportunity to take 6 months and step away. And I was going to do that and just sail for a bit. And then I figured, I've invested a lot of time, money, effort into buying this boat, getting it outfitted. So I decided 6 months wasn't going to quite cut it for me. So I said, you know what, I'm going to step away for now. It might be a year, it might be 2 years, it might be 3 years. I don't know. I don't really have that end date, but yeah, it was just, you know, it was time. There's time when you're successful like yourself. You walked away. Now you've chased this dream of yours, which I remember you chatting about, and you were doing it as a side hustle, right?
Mhm.
I remember that well, and yeah. So my dream was always to circumnavigate the world and sail. That was a dream. I don't know, in my early 20s, and I never thought I'd get a chance to do it.
Here's a funny
But
story. Mark and I go so far back. So what happened is in 2017 when we closed, $6 million ACV, Mark, I made so much money, and my accountant said you need to get a business going. Here's a true story, right before the roller coaster and the real, the
yeah,
real reason of untap your sales potential. I'm like, I gotta have a business to be able to save some money on taxes because as a W-2, you don't keep anything. So I started a coaching business. I'm like, Mark, I need a client. Can I coach with you for an hour? Can we please do this? And you're like, sure. And that was my
yeah.
first check officially before I even became a coach. And it was to benefit from taxes and have a real client where I didn't want to just put it on paper. And that was kind of like honestly right before you started in sales. So I'd
Yeah.
love to I'd love to just give everyone some background in terms of what we did together and kind of what made us unique as a team, as an
Want to listen?
AE and an
Yeah.
SE working together. So being able to partner, how do AEs, because we did a great job, we divided and conquered.
Yeah.
I'd love to get your perspective on, what AEs can do to really, really help be successful as a team with their engineer.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Because we were a good team together. I mean, the success we had was unheard of at the time, right? And people were trying to replicate it. And I think it came down to I always trusted you, and we always made sure that both of us were in alignment, right? And we were not afraid to challenge each other. Like if I disagreed with you, I was vocal. I was like, no, this is what we need to focus on, right?
Say
Let's
stop. You'd say stop doing this now. You would really put me in my place a lot of times.
yes, yeah. Um, and like the way I look at it is we both realized and aligned on the fact that we need to serve our customers, and that was our North Star was
Mhm.
servitude. We need to serve the customer. The rest will happen, it will work itself out. But if we stay true to ourselves that we're going into this account, any account for that matter, with the curiosity of what is keeping this person up at night, what is keeping this top executive, what is keeping the operational managers, and roll it down and figure out what is that North Star. And that North Star is the main primary focus, that top line vision. But that propagates down to, depending on the level you're at in the company, to the operational goals, right? I need CSAT scores to be X, but that's not the North Star. The North Star is we need to grow our business by X amount of customers in the next 5 years, or we don't stay in business, right? That can keep a customer up at night. Um, and we both kind of align to that philosophy. And I always could trust that you weren't going to go in selling, right? You were going in to listen and to understand. It wasn't, let's be honest, at the very beginning, you might have had that, and I would
I,
on the
I
side.
admit it. I used to
I
be
would do it.
transactional for sure, and I had to evolve into more strategic. But you,
Yeah,
I think you're hitting the head. So, like, specifically, what I remember doing is I would have a lot of the executive conversations, right? And I'd get the buy-in from like a Chris Stewart or leadership to go deep. And what you would do, which I thought was really unique, is you get so darn curious around what they're doing today, how they're doing it, and then you would paint this North Star vision of the art of the possible. I remember accounts like First Legal, where we went
yeah,
in there and we shadowed the
yeah,
operations team, and you were just like, I need more, I need more, I need more. And you built this killer. It wasn't a demo, it's like a vision board of like the art of the possible. Can you just talk a little bit about what engineers and how engineers should be thinking, where if an AE doesn't maybe have that type of engineer, they can coach and they can grow together, because you are really good at painting a picture of what's possible and then translating it into the technology to show the client, hey, this isn't just vaporware. This is a real
yeah.
possibility, and here's what it looks like.
Well, it's again going back to curiosity. You need to be very passionate about learning everything you can about a business. Now, we don't do this for every single account. We can only put our there's only X number of minutes in the day, hours in the day. So we got to be kind of ruthless with our time in first identifying which are your strategic accounts. And I would look to you and every single account executive when I was an SE and say, give me which are your big bets, and I would look across the team. Okay, these are the big bets, right? This is the industry. Now I'm going to go study what is the industry doing today? What is the status quo? Why is it the status quo? Right. And I would constantly ask myself, why is it this way? Why? And then, you were phenomenal at it, which was always getting me in front of that executive and helping them open up truly to what is the pain and challenge of that organization, getting their sponsorship at the top level. Those executives don't know the day in, day out. So with their sponsorship, we would go down to to the floor, to the people actually answering the call centers, like you mentioned, First Legal, right? We would go in, we would um, really shadow every single employee, me and my team. I would quarterback a team. I don't know, sometimes the team is 20 plus, different, engineers and specialists and architects, right? And so I would make sure from the technical standpoint that everything is aligned to us wanting to serve the customer, not sell.
Mm-hmm.
And serving the customer means first seek to understand, then be understood. It's not our time to start giving our perspective, our point of view, until we've done our due diligence and truly understood what the problems are.
I love it. And one thing I remember is you used to have all these engineers. Like again, if you work for an SAP, a Microsoft, an Oracle, an AWS, a Salesforce, right? Any company with a lot of products and services, you are going to be building a solution. It's like these Lego blocks, right? Are to
Yeah,
create the Millennium Falcon. And Mark, you would go in with the Slack engineer, the MuleSoft engineer, the Service Cloud, and say, nope, this is the vision. We're doing this. You got to do your part. And you would hold your engineers and your architects and your resources accountable. So you were the technical leader and I was the sales leader. And that was a big difference. You're like, Ian, stop. I got this. But you kind of like treated it like like you were their boss, even though they were rolling up to a matrix environment. And I thought that was really, I
I
thought that
mean,
awesome.
yeah, I think that's a huge um, skill set for any AE. Is influence without authority is a critical skill in enterprise sales.
Mhm.
Influence without authority. They were dotted line. I wasn't their manager. And when I transitioned to an account director, it was the same thing. If you're an enterprise seller, you're going to have a lot of people on your account. And again, going back to what made me and you successful, I believe, is truly we we truly believed in serving the customer, not selling. Let's serve the customer. How do we do that? We figure out what are their pain points. What is it that we need to actually address? And so when you're building out a technical solution, you need to make sure that you do hold court with all the other resources because your MuleSoft rep is going to be, the hammer and the nail analogy, right? MuleSoft, oh, it's integration is their biggest problem. Slack, oh, it's collaboration is their biggest problem. Marketing, oh no, it's marketing is their biggest problem. And the AE is going to be trying to push that. And as a core, and I know not everybody might be familiar with Salesforce, but we were core account directors,
Mhm.
and I was core lead SE as well. And so my job when I was working with you was making sure that all the various different solution sets aligned to what me and you created as the North Star and vision for that customer. And when I say we created, it's really the customer, right? I think you've talked about Berkshire Hathaway and Chris Stewart. They're the ones who created the vision. We are the ones that help bring it alive. We
Mhm.
supported collaborative conversation. We gave them that safe space to have those conversations. And I think that's another thing that as an SE, if you're out there working with any AE, is you need to be able to help the account director with the customer. You need to make sure that customer feels like they're in a safe space when they're with you. You're the solution expert. You're the technical expert. You're the trusted advisor. It was so funny how when my title changed, my mindset didn't change. I always want to serve my customers. But when I went from SE to AE, suddenly people would have their backs up, like this guy's trying to sell me something. Um, and so that was a big challenge for me when I transitioned over, which I know we might want to talk about.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
But
let's go there now. So why'd you do it? You were mid career, and you say, well, I'm gonna. It takes a lot of courage to say, hey, I'm gonna switch from technical, where I'm being brought in, to I'm the lead. Tell me kind of what was the reason you made that switch.
I think a lot of people would make the joke. They were saying, "Mark, you got to go into sales. You're you're always pushing the deals too." And you remember I was very passionate about it. It was because I was passionate about the vision, that we were building. I was passionate about actually helping and solving the customer. And I suppose the pay wasn't bad either. The potential pay, that is. But I think it was more around the fact that I wanted a new challenge. I felt, I grew as an SC. I loved building out the vision, but now I wanted to become a little bit more strategic. And as the account director, it's a completely different mindset sometimes. You got to start thinking about what's the strategic business problems for the customer, their business vision, but the challenges of how to get the deal moving, right? And that rigor to an enterprise deal is going to take 12, 24 months, and you have to quarterback that throughout that period till deal close.
So
Um,
tell me about the early struggles. You said it was you weren't received the as well because customers had their guard up. Kind of what was it like early on, first year when you made that transition? What are some of the challenges you had, or just some of the adjustments you had to make?
yeah, the biggest challenge was shifting my mindset from, solutions expert to a business strategist. Uh, as an SE, I was always focused on the technical win. But as an AE, I had to think, much bigger, my understanding, which I never really focused as an SE on, like the politics within the organization, right? Who are the decision makers? Who are the five people that need to say yes, or the 10 people that need to say yes to this deal? What's my relationship with them? Do
Mhm.
I truly understand what they're thinking? What is what we're solving really what they want to solve? Are they going to say yes to this? Right. So all of that aspect of the deal cycles, I never got to witness. I wasn't really part of as a solution engineer. But when you transition to the account director, I think that was the first initial challenge. I didn't have that rigor. Um, but I fortunately had, some very good RVPs who believed in me. Dean Toby, Dallas Stonehouse, all the way up to Jen McGaley as well, leadership chain, um, who really kind of helped me develop that rigor, right? And so that was one of the first challenges. Then the other one was, and I think it's a trait of every good account director or AE, is resilience. You're going to get told no. And I remember when I got I worked so hard on this deal. The solution was the right fit. Everything was the business case was the right thing. And we didn't get the deal. And I put all that blood, sweat, almost tears into it. And we didn't get the result. And I remember Dean Toby saying, well, this is one step closer to the result. You got to go through those no's to get to that yes. We got to now go back. You go back and you figure out why the no, right? What is it that we can do to structure this properly for it to be a yes? What do we have to do? And eventually, we won the deal eventually, but it took another 12 months of a cycle.
So what was
Um,
your first year results? Like, how did you do your first year?
I didn't make quota my
Yeah,
first year.
I didn't think so. I know we didn't talk about it, but I know you were because you called me and you were frustrated a couple times, and that must have been what,
What's going
2020?
on?
Was that
Yeah, yeah,
2020, 2021 when
2020. Yeah,
so it's
2020.
so it's COVID, you're working from home, new to sales, new to politics, everything's moving. That's a hard time
Yeah,
to make that
yeah, it
transition.
was 2020. What, look at the Irish, eh? Uh,
Hey, it made you more resilient to your point.
yeah, because working with me, one of the things I loved doing was getting everybody in a room, um, and doing ideation on the whiteboards. And I
Mhm.
wanted to ideate on the executive teams, right? One of the important traits of any good salesperson is to be able to think like a CEO, a CIO, CFO, to put yourself into their mindset, right? And reverse engineer what are the things that are important to them.
Mhm.
Um, but then it's not just about you. You now have to propagate that vision across your entire team. And during COVID, that was challenging because I had a brand new team, never worked with me before, didn't know, how we go about sales cycles. We had a lot of new people who joined Salesforce. So when I first entered into sales, although the RVP knew me, he wasn't loading me up with, you know, primed accounts. He said, "No, you're going to earn your stripes, Mark. I don't care how long you've been here. You're going to earn these stripes." So he gave me accounts that didn't like our Salesforce, had never bought, and it was kind of a greenfield new logo account, right? New logo patch, and that's what I had to do. Was the first 12 months was
I
kind of build
remember
a
we talked about it because you were in this one group and it was like new logos, and then you had linear logistics and you're trying to figure out what territory to
yeah.
go to. Yeah, it feels like yesterday, but it feels like a lifetime ago. So you missed it your first year, right? You're learning the
Yeah.
ropes, a lot of transition. What shifted? Did you make any big changes? Because then you went again from missing quota to 350, 300%, making $1 million. That like a couple years in a row. It's freaking. It's a triumph story so quick. Only a couple years it took you. So I'm curious because a lot of people in the room, we got 50 people here. A lot of them did miss quota, and that's why they joined the program. Or maybe they scraped in quad just to hit plan. You didn't just hit plan, you went way triple, quadruple plan. I'm curious kind of what shifted after the first year of like maybe this isn't working, or was it simply just trust the process, or did you change what you did to be able to really triple down, quadruple down your
Yeah, it was, no one's going to give me these fantastic accounts where there's multi-million dollar deals just sitting there, going back to what Dean Toby says, Mark, you're going to have to earn it. You're going to have to create the good territory. And so what I did was I started studying every single account there is, and I was hyper focused on the right deals. So not every opportunity deserves the same level of effort. And I learned to qualify ruthlessly, right?
Mm.
A new logo patch, typically you have a lot of accounts. So I had to start I went through each one and started um, going through what's the potential for this market space. Is there an M&A? Is there a change in leadership in this account? Go through the 10Ks for any public account, right? Go through all the rudimental stuff, but then you going back to I need to now be rootless with my time because the first year everybody's from your internal resources, check-ins and one-on-one meetings, every single, co-prime cloud sales rep wants an hour of your time, or oh, it'll just be an hour of this, or it'll just be half hour of this. And the day eats away, and you're like, what have I achieved?
Mm.
So I went back to just being rootless with my time, in the sense of I would say no to a lot of things in order to say yes to the right things. Um, and I think that's what changed first. So being hyper focused on that. Then instead of focusing only on product fit, I started thinking like a CFO. If it was a CFO conversation, thinking like a CEO, what moves the needle for them? That changed everything. Like one of the biggest shifts that led to success in sales was again going back to my SE routes of North Star was saying, okay, now I found an account, I found an executive with a really good North Star vision that I feel passionately about that we can solve. So next was bring in your leadership. I brought in anyone I could, the RVPs, SVPs, right? Or architects. I would bring them in and say, hey, I've got an executive sponsor here. Here's his vision. I believe this is something that's up our alley. This is a product fit for us. I want to co-sponsor a consultative engagement. I want to sponsor uh, the ability for this customer to have a safe space, bring in all his team and have those open conversations around this North Star. How do we backwards engineer a solution to deliver on that? And when you started doing that and you have these customers now investing that time, that's a leading indicator that they want to solve something.
Mm.
Whether we are going to be the solution that wins or not remains to be seen. But they want to solve this challenge,
Mhm.
whether it be Microsoft, Oracle, AWS. They're going to want to solve this. And so, okay, now we've got a potential deal. Now it's ours to win. And so by creating that safe space with the customer, we transitioned to, trusted advisor. Um, and again, I was quarterbacking now the sales guys, but I was also a little bit for the poor SEs that were aligned to me. I was also checking in on the technical vision and saying, no, that's not it. No, that's not it.
Mhm.
It needs to be always aligned to that North Star of whatever the executive has chosen. And we created a safe space. They choose it. We ask those, prodding questions, and we bring in our architects. I think the challenge for me was also allowing those architects to
Do their
take the reins.
job, letting go of control. Um,
Yes.
so I want to unpack a few things you're talking about. So like well, first before, like, did you have a certain approach you took to get and find the executive sponsor and find the North Star? Or was it talking to a lot of people? Like, how do you know if you're with a change agent, a mobilizer? And for context, we're in the middle of what's called closing the complex sale in our program. So we're talking about, it's
Uh-huh.
not about winning all the deals. It's about winning the right deals. And the top
Yes.
sellers close 75% of their deals because they only put time, resource, and energy into clients that have an executive sponsor. So you are speaking my language right now. So like, how do you find those executive sponsors or change agents where you say, okay, I'm going to invest my team's time and energy into this because this person's serious? Is there anything you look for?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me think. So you again, you need to understand the industry first. You need to come with a point of view that makes the executive want to respond to your email, right? You doing a bash or, you know, I would tell, so it starts with my team. I would say, new logo territory. I'm starting out today. What would I start doing? And
Mhm.
what would be my quickest path to success? Number one, I would go through and identify what are the key accounts based on revenue size, right? The top dollar spend. Then within those accounts, is there leadership change? Is there a new leader? Typically, a new leader needs at least 12 months in seat, my opinion, not a rule. 12 months in seat to really start to get a hold of what is it that they want to do. They're not going to come in and do a strategic engagement straight away. They're going to want to settle. So if you see someone who's transitioned into your account, is in an executive role, I would reach out to them and say, hey, I've partnered with a lot of other executives uh, similar to your role. Here's what I've done for them. I'm happy to introduce or connect you because sometimes the best referrals are from my customers themselves. I've had customer executives, even CEOs, go and have a conversation with my new clients. So that's one. So is there an executive change? The dollar amount, executive change. Then if we're having those conversations with them, it's the prep work is important. You need to be able to think and talk like that executive. If it's a CFO, you need to understand what matters to the CFO. If it's a CEO, you need to know what matters to the CEO. CIO, similarly. Um, I've had more success with the sales orgs and those types of business leaders than the CIOs a lot of times, because a lot of times there's an incumbent, like a legacy. This going back years when we had to explain what cloud was, early days of Salesforce. And,
Mhm.
and a CIO just closed a technology partnership and spent millions and millions of dollars, and he was tasked with finding the right solution. He's probably not going to be the one I want to reach out to first. So I'm going to go with the business leaders first. So that's another thing which is important, is choosing whose door you're going to knock on first, because a lot of times what happens is you knock on the wrong door. They look like and seem like they're a change agent. They sound like they're a change agent, but really what they're doing is they want to keep their enemies close. So what they're doing is keeping you close so that you don't go talk to anyone else in the company,
Mhm.
because they know they made the wrong decision maybe with a certain technology. They don't want it to come to light.
Mhm.
So it's being very tactful in your approach, and I would stack rank the executives that you want to reach out to, and sequence them too. But I would go wide across the account still.
What do you mean
Uh,
sequence them?
I mean, I wouldn't. if I know that the CIO is a potential foe, I'm not going to reach out to him first because he might then say, okay, well, don't reach out to them. I'm going to help connect you. And suddenly you have
Gotcha.
a chat, which you can overcome.
Hmm.
You can overcome it. There's ways to do it, but um, it's not a challenge I want to sign up for a brand new account. I'd rather figure out who are the
Okay,
ones
so
where there's the
so you have the
highest
one hand,
probability of success.
someone might be telling you what you want to hear, sounding like they're great. Like again, back to the
Oh,
question,
yeah.
how do you know if they're full of it or if they're really a change agent? Are there signs that you look for? You can tell where they're okay,
Yes.
this person is actually like serious.
Yeah. I ask them, okay, this sounds like a big challenge, right? And I get them to say yes a couple of times so it sounds like a big challenge you want to solve. Yes. Okay. And, why is it that we haven't, looked at it now? Is this the right time? And they say yes. Okay. If they say no, it's not the right time, then, now the next question is, okay, so when is it? Why is it not the right time? They're gonna start then pushing you away from it. Oh, this is a big challenge, but it's not the right time. Come back in 12 months. That's not a change agent. That's not a sponsor. Change agent, if you're a company and a respectful uh, resource, you've earned a little bit of trust so far at this point, right, to be speaking with that executive, and you're saying, I'm going to sponsor a consultative engagement, and they're kind of brushing you off on that. That's free. Um, I don't think they're going to be the ones that you want to align with.
Which is why
Uh,
you need executive sponsorship so early before you go and do a consulting engagement.
yes.
Told this to someone yesterday during office hours. I'm like, don't put your resources and do workshops and lunch and learns and POCs if you don't have sponsorship,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's telling as well if they're not willing to introduce you to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
That's right.
and especially if they're not introducing you to other people that are a peer at the same level within the organization or above. If they're
Mm-hmm.
introducing you to people and it's in their management chain, that's telling because he should be able to answer any of those questions,
Mm-hmm.
uh, first and foremost. If it's directly dotted line under, he's trying to keep you bottled in. And yeah,
Perfect. Okay, so talk to people
not
about what a
necessarily.
consultative engagement. So you get someone that says, "Yeah, this is," and again, I'll just reiterate, it's called yo-yo selling, right? It's starting at the top, getting sponsorship, then going down, doing the assessment, and going wide into other departments, and going back up to do the readout with the executive sponsor. I'm curious, did you do ignites when you were there, or did you kind of do ignite like workshops, or when you say do the assessment, what did that look like for you for an account that they have a big problem, they have an exec sponsor, they're serious, they're bringing in the right people? What was kind of the process that you took to run discovery?
Yeah, so what I would do is I would run discovery with the executive team first and foremost.
Hmm.
I would say to them that we're here to serve you, and we're here to help you arrive at a point of view or perspective of what's important to your business. And the only ask that I have is not to sell, uh, but it's to have the opportunity if I feel that your business challenge that we've helped you arrive and identify as being the top one is something that we can solve. Do we have the opportunity to present to you and the executive team? If they agree to that, then we can move forward with the consultative workshop because we're putting in a lot of our time, right? We're not charging or billing you, but like a PwC or whoever would cost a lot of money, right? You remember as well these ignites, illuminates, as they're called in Salesforce. We're bringing in architects, solution experts, uh, a lot of expertise, and it's a lot of hours. It's a huge overhead for our company. It can cost 100,000, 200,000, $300,000 as an exercise, if not more. And so we really do have to make sure that these executives really do want to solve this business challenge,
Hmm.
uh, or one that they're thinking they have. And so you mentioned illuminate and ignite. There's a difference, right? And so one is the ignite is to forgive the pun here, but is to ignite a fire around a need for change, right? It's a top level vision, or it's for a company that's like we don't have a strong direction right now. We're looking for a direction. We're looking for a strategic initiative, but we don't know where we should focus our energy. Okay, we are going to help you. We're going to help you and your team collaborate together and have conversations together, facilitated by our expertise.
Mhm.
That's all we're going to do. And at the end, you're going to come then to a conclusion like, this is where we need to spend our time. This is where we need to spend our dollars. And then that's where our sales cycle actually starts, right? It's not where it finishes, it's where it starts. Because then we have to then do discovery around that strategic initiative that they've now identified as being important to them.
Yeah,
And
and for everyone who doesn't know what Ignite means, not to use industry nomenclature, but it's a design thinking engagement where you get everyone in the room and really align on a strategic vision, align on priorities, vote, use, stickies to put top challenges and priorities and get everyone, I said this yesterday in the group call, get everyone aligned on what are they trying to solve? What are the biggest
yeah,
priorities? What are the biggest challenges? And that's kind of step one, so you can make sure all the resources are put in the right direction. Because if they can't agree and if they don't talk to each other, then they're not going to buy and
they're
agree to
not going to buy
spend
anything.
millions of dollars. So
Yeah,
and for people who want to learn to do that, naked sales is a great way to run and facilitate those workshops.
yeah,
So you were going to say
yeah.
Illuminate.
It's so critical just to do that. And even if you can't, if you're in an organization, you can't get all those resources, you can do this yourself, right? I remember me and another SE, I was the AE. We did our own one, just the two of us,
Mhm.
and we treated it like that. We did a mock-up, for Jacuzzi, which was one of yours as well. We flew down to Mexico at their conference and studied all and interviewed. I interviewed all the different people, who were there, their customers, right,
Is
which
that
were the
Mark
dealers,
Allen? Were you working with?
yeah, and everyone else.
It's so funny. I was just thinking about him as I was in my hot tub. I thought about all the sensors in the IoT Cloud deal. He went on
Yeah,
stage at Dreamforce, and that was one of
yeah,
the things we sold together. I think we sold it
yeah,
together, the IoT Cloud, when we
yeah,
were
yeah,
working together.
yeah. And so you can do it yourself, but the principle of this is you're helping your customer align around an initiative.
Hmm.
Because a lot of times you'll find that these executives are in their swim lane and they're not talking to each other. And when we sponsor this, and that's kind of the secret sauce or value of like the PwCs and all of these, consulting big four, big fives, is all they're doing is coming in as an outside entity, enabling these conversations that haven't taken place before to take place. So if
Hmm.
you can do that, great. Now they're aligned around initiative.
Hmm.
The other aspect that you can do, which is a shorter cycle, and it's for if a company does have a big pain point, is what we would call our illuminates, right? And that's more of an architecture driven engagement, which is to say, okay, you've got this North Star. Let's backwards engineer how we get there. And let's help you build out that architecture. And Salesforce or whatever product you're selling isn't the be end and end all, but it has to fit within an ecosystem. And what we want you to arrive at is a full architecture
Hmm.
with all the other solutions included, and show you how this architecture will deliver on that North Star.
Hmm.
And so that's more of a technical, assessment, with actual milestones for implementation and phased rollouts. And for that one, it's critical to also include an SI. I always say to the customers, look, you choose the SI. We're going to give you some recommendations, but ultimately it's your choice. And here's some SIs that our customers have been happy with, right? And so I would do that first, and then we would bring in the SI and have them have skin in the game. So that's actually another good resource for anybody out there. If the company doesn't have those architects, that's going to uh, you're going to get funding to do this initiative. If you have SIs out there that are willing to come in and help with the sales cycle, I would leverage them as well. And I did that as well for all the other accounts that were like my tier 2 and tier 3, I would start leveraging my SIs. I would keep my SEs for my top strategic goals and the architects for them for my top strategic accounts. And then the next tiers, I would start leveraging my SIs as well, because some of those deals ended up, initially were small and then they grew. We bring in the team then as well.
I love it. I love it. And you mentioned again, executive sponsorship, deep assessment, curiosity, get the North Star, qualifying ruthlessly, say no to things that aren't RGAs, that aren't revenue
Yeah.
generating, say no to, crappy internal meetings. These are all kind of nuggets that we teach, but it's like the old is forever new. I didn't coach you on this conversation. I didn't know what you're going to say. It's all the same things we teach and the same things that come over and over again. Less is more. Fewer accounts, go deeper, higher, and wider. And I talked to someone this morning who had a massive year, and I said, "Where'd it come from?" He's actually on the call. He said 90% was from one account, and he crushed it, knocked it out of the 220% of plan. He knows who he is. So fundamentally, like it's all about going all in with the right accounts where they're giving you access to the team, where they really are invested in working together. You don't give your time, energy, and resources to people that aren't going to give back. It's a give to get. Mark, I know you're super direct. You are such a challenger in the way that you talk to clients and the way you think. It's all about disrupting the status quo and getting them to think bigger. I'm curious, like, what do you think? Because I don't think sales is tactics. I don't think it's strategy. I think it's the person and how they think and how they work. And I'm curious what you think makes a phenomenal, I mean, top 1% elite seller. What are the qualities that made you elite, that made me elite, that you see in elite sellers that people should really try to work on within themselves?
Uh, it's switching from selling to serving, number one. And this is not a fake it till you make it thing. You need to really ask yourself, do you truly believe in serving your customer? Because commission bread, customers will sense it. You know, you'll give it off. If you need to say it to yourself, are you truly about serving versus selling? Um, Partnering versus pitching, right? So don't come in and pitch a product. Partner with someone. Ask them what that challenge is. Can I partner with you to figure out what the right solution is? I'm going to give you some options, pros and cons. Um, right. So partnering completely transformed the way we engage with customers. So uh, switching from selling to serving, from pitching to partnering. And then in terms of top sellers,
Mhm.
um, I would say it's about finding, uh, uh, focused on companies undergoing change, MMA, leadership shifts, digital transformation. So knowing and understanding your territory. Do you truly understand every executive? Is there an executive that's going to be leaving in 2 months? Is there a new one coming in? Not getting caught off guard with that. So you got to follow it on LinkedIn. You got to kind of be almost semi-stalker in a way. But you need to know everybody in your territory on those key accounts. I had an airline. It's one of the largest airline in the world, and we had an executive change. That was our key moment, entry, right? Um, Learning to qualify, right? So I used rigorous qualification processes. Is there a compelling event, right? So making sure that you're qualifying your deals and developing that skill set, which I'm sure you're teaching everyone, right? Is there executive sponsor? Is it truly an executive sponsor? Is the problem painful enough, right? Because a lot of times you lose deals with the, so what, who cares? We're just gonna tap along. We're the leader in our market space. We don't need to do anything, right? Um, Say that the blockbuster. Executing, right? So I think building multi-threaded relationships at all levels, right? So aligning your solution to the business impact, but making sure you're not single-threaded in any one account. The best executives are always multi-threaded. When I would get, quizzed by our EVP, right, because we've got one of the top deals in the market segment, he would go, okay, what's the CFO's vision on this? Where does he stand on this deal? Where's the CIO's vision on this? Where does he stand on this deal? You betcha any top seller is going to understand what each one of those executives who needs to say yes to your deal, where they're at, where their mindset is at. right? And the board. I think you mentioned before you were, and I was cut off too with some board sellers, right? So you need to know who again who needs to say yes to that deal. Um, in terms of like the top one percenters, I think executive communication. So like we said earlier, you need to know how to speak like a CEO, CFO, CIO, right? Learning to speak the language of the C-suite, it's non-negotiable. You have to know that. Um, Strategic thinking. Again, it's not just about selling software, it's about solving the business problems. And you need to come with that passion for your solution set that you have.
Hmm.
If you're not passionate about it, the customer, they're not going to be passionate about it. So I think that was one thing I never lacked, right?
Not at all.
Passion for a solution.
For good,
Um,
bad, and ugly, right? You are a passionate man in all areas of life.
And I think resilience is another one, right? And I learned it from watching you, watching a lot of great salespeople and sales leaders. Is resilience. Top performers handle rejection and setbacks without losing momentum.
Mhm.
Just because this person said no in the account doesn't mean it's a no to the deal. Just means you haven't figured out what you need to do to get to that yes. So having
Mhm.
that resilience to get back up again.
Yeah,
Um,
I love it. I
yeah,
think also, I mean, you're speaking again, you're dropping nuggets right now, but just passion and belief in what you sell and in the vision that you have for helping the customer, a heart of service, which you cannot fake. People can
you can't.
smell the
You can't.
commission breath. Resilience to keep going and to follow up and not take no as a no, but just as a temporary, right, no that is going to lead to the yes. And I think above all, just curiosity, genuine curiosity, because you don't take the effort to figure out how to talk like a CFO, talk like a CEO, think like a CEO, unless you're really curious to know how
Yeah.
does a CEO think, how does a CFO think. Um, I want to open it up to questions because if I don't, I'll just talk your ear off and you'll talk mine off. So I want to open it up to the group. If you guys can raise your hand, I already see a couple in the chat, so we can start there. And then if you could put your hands up and leverage Mark for the brilliance that he has. Again, this is a guy that numerous years over seven figures, bought a boat, living the dream. He's proof it can be done in a short order, but it's because of how he's showing up. It's the qualities of who he is, not the tactics. The qualities lead to the tactics. Remember Mike Fiasconi saying the state that you're in leads to the story you tell yourself that leads to the strategy, right? So the state you were in is curiosity and service, right? To the story of I need to go bigger and help my customers, to the process of then learning how to think and work and act like a CEO and develop a POV like a CEO. So capture all that. It starts with the state. Um, the first question is from George. With being ruthless with your time, this is something I need to be better at. How did you deliver the no, especially when thinking about non-valuable internal meetings that you might be required to go to?
It was it's when I was leaving and departing Salesforce, it was tough because we had a lot of new people that came in, and I won't name any names, but so there was a product SKU, and this person kept hitting up my account with which she's doing her job. They're doing their job and they're trying to sell into it. But at the same time, my customer had come to me with, Mark, we need them to stop calling on them. Um, so I had to have a delicate conversation there with, hey, this is going to impact us as a company if you're coming in trying to sell.
Mhm.
Um, and so you need to be able to have tough conversations internally and navigate the politics. And that starts with making sure that you're aligned with your leadership chain and saying, hey, this is what I'm seeing. Here's the impact to me,
Mhm.
which is your direct I'm your revenue generator, and here's where I'm seeing an impact to revenue. So that gets
Mhm.
your RVP aligned. So your leadership needs to have some stake in the game here. I know, like, remember you at Dallas Stonehouse, right, Ian? And if we were trying to sell in and there was a certain product SKU and they just were trying to push on that product all the time and then try and get in on our meetings with the customer because we've got this good relationship, we would then lean on our executive team to say, hey, these guys are trying to develop the relationship. and there needs to be trust amongst the team that these guys are trying to do what's right for the company, which is what's right for the customer. And if and when it's appropriate, you need to trust that they will bring you in.
Mhm.
But when they do bring you in, they're quarterbacking this deal cycle that might have taken them a year or 2 years.
Yeah.
So please respect their ethos on how they want to work with the customer.
So I think again, just knowing and taking ownership of the vision is really important. So you can know who to say no to. If you have clarity on what you're trying to do, you can say no easier, George. And then just
Yeah.
another frame to look at it is this an RGA or not? Is this creating or advancing pipeline? If it's not, I say no. I'm not going to an SKO meeting. I'm not going to we had this La Lima thing, which is a week long, where it was just like you got invited. I never went to a single one of those. I didn't go to anything that was skipped. You just can't. Otherwise, your whole calendar will be hijacked by pointless meetings. So you just have to say, is this an RGA or not? If it's not, respectfully decline and talk to your manager
Yeah.
too and say, here's why I'm not going. I had to do those a
Yeah.
lot. My manager supported me. So I want to
Yeah,
get.
my executive team definitely supported me with that, and I think anyone who knows me in Salesforce knew I was the worst person for logging activities in the world. No, that was a pain that every manager who managed me ever had. Was I was not necessarily a good app rigger,
Ironic,
but
isn't
I was able to back it up though with the fact that sorry, I can't take your meeting because I have a meeting with the CIO. Mr. Executive, who's my boss, where do you want me to spend my time? Put it to them, copy them in, and say, hey, this is
it?
what I'm trying to do. I'd love to take your meeting, but then I would have to deprioritize this.
It comes down to knowing your worth and not caring what people think because you know where you need to
Sorry,
spend
that's
time and not being a people pleaser. It's a great question. And it's like people spend the wrong time, all their time on the wrong things because they care about how they're perceived in the organization. And you just cannot
oh
think about
yeah.
that. You can think about how your customer perceives you, not your company. Arjun asks, if you had doubts about yourself before the breakthrough you had, how did you overcome any doubts? Like when you missed quota, for example, or, when you initially, made the transition, is this the right thing? How did you overcome and have that breakthrough?
I think it's like similar to what I'm doing right now with sailing. I've had doubts. I still have doubts. And you're going to have doubts in sales. Even if you finish number one, you're still going to have this imposter syndrome from time to time creep up. So it's about what's important to you. What's your long-term goal? And for me, my long-term goal was I'm committed to making this a success and giving it X number of time to make it a success.
Mhm.
And that meant I'm gonna see this through to the best of my ability. And sorry, there's a plane taking off now.
You're fun. I could hear you fun.
Um, she's gone. Um, I'm going to see this through to the end, which means the first 12 months is going to be tough. I know that. The next 12 months could be tough too. I know that. But there's people that believed in me, and I'm going to use that positive energy. And then I'm also going to believe in myself and just always better, never best.
Mhm.
Everyone looks at someone and goes, "Oh wow, they're the best." If anyone asks me, I'm saying, "No, I'm, I make mistakes every single day. I'm still making mistakes in everything I do." But so I'm never best, always better. And
Yeah.
so if you are improving, you're winning.
The second part of that question is how do you know what areas need to be improved? If you're trying, if you're grinding, if you're showing up hard, how did you take a minute, I guess, to pause and reflect on what you need to change?
Um, you need to listen to yourself. You really do know the areas that need to change if you do start to listen to yourself. But if you don't, um, you should be able to go to your executives and your peers and say to them, to disarm them, which is, hey, I value constructive feedback. I know it's not easy to wake up in the morning and deliver something like, hey, Mark, you weren't the best in this meeting, and here's why. But I know it's coming from a place of love. It comes from a place of care that you care about my growth. So I always want you to know that I'm going to respect you more for speaking up when you see an area or a gap in knowledge or an area where I can improve. So I think I used to say that to the entire team as account director. I would tell everybody and say, look, I'm here to serve the customer, but I'm also here to make all of you guys successful. And
Mm.
that means I need to grow. And you also need to grow. So hopefully it's reciprocated, I used to say, which means I get to give you constructive feedback. Maybe not at the time in the heat of the moment when someone had a meeting didn't go well, but at a later time I would say, are you open to the constructive feedback now? And likewise, I'm open to constructive feedback, guys. Let me know where I can grow.
And you didn't hesitate to give me feedback. I know that.
True.
What did you do, Mark, with this people who were like initially putting their guard up? What did you say to them when they said, "Oh, you're in sales"? What was kind of how did you respond to that to overcome that resistance to salespeople that you got that you didn't have as an SE?
You're going to get that. You're going to get it, and the way you respond to it is you keep helping them. You keep researching and sending them an email that has got some thought-provoking idea, like, "Hey guys, here's your industry. Here's what I've seen and learned at the moment. Um, here's here's a challenge that I've helped a different customer in within your space solve. Is this something interesting to you?" Without an ask as well, just serve. So give them information that's valuable, and you keep doing that. After a while, they're going to go, okay, you know what? This person's actually being helpful.
Took me 15 emails and calls to get a meeting with St. Joe's, and it was that playbook. It was like, hey, I saw this, thought of you. Hey, we can help you here with this.
Yeah.
Look what Stanford Medical is doing. It's like you just got to keep going. You
Yeah.
literally got to keep going. Half of what you send is probably not getting read anyway. So just keep.
Going back to the top three things: executive communication, strategic thinking, resilience. You need to have the resilience to keep sending those emails. Those emails content is based on your strategic thinking and your executive communication. That that trifecta will lead to success. Strategic communication, learn it, learn how to speak like a CEO, CFO, what they care about. The strategic thinking, learn where are your avenues to gain a glimpse of that company. If they're a public company, what's put out there in their public reports. If it's a private company, search on LinkedIn, find what are the posts of the executives.
I'm going to say like my next question, and then we'll go to Javed. Oh, how do you learn to think like a CFO? Literally, guys, before even Mark was doing this and I was doing it, right? We had to study and read white papers and, have conversations with people about what the CMO cares about. Now you can ask ChatGPT. You can literally go through what are CFOs thinking about in this industry? I want to have a meeting with the CFO. How can I talk to them? Practice with me, role play. Literally, it's like teed up in a way that has never been easier to start asking and inquiring and being curious before prepping so that you can sound educated. And if you don't get it, you can ask some more and you can ask some more until you're comfortable. You learn by doing, but you also learn by preparing and reading and studying. And that's something that you have to take a step back to do. If you're just grinding and hustling, you're not going to get better. You're just going to do the same thing. And that's honestly like even to listen to yourself, Arjun, and know what needs to improve, you got to take a step back and pause and reflect, right? Last
Actually,
question, Javed, my friend, last question.
Thanks, Mark, for this wonderful insight. Like, really very practical for me because I'm being a technical person who's now kind of selling. So it's really useful from that perspective. So one challenge that you just kind of actually surfaced was like there is a bias of like jumping to solutions versus actually trying to frame it as a problem, and that you were trying, like I faced, where you said like, hey, earlier you were trying to arrive at the right solution versus like, hey, is this even a priority and something you need to solve? So how did you make that mindset shift? Because at one, and any resources you use to kind of help you through the process.
So yeah, so your question, because it was broke up there for a second, but your question is around how do I shift from just coming in with the solution and pushing the
Correct.
solution to now let's actually take a step back. Let's focus on, is this the right solution for them, by
Mhm.
first understanding what is the problem.
Correct.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it's hard because I need to bite my tongue or sit on my hands sometimes in meetings because my brain is always ticking over. And I kind of sometimes arrived at like, oh, their problem is this, and this is the solution. This is This is the hammer that's going to solve for that nail problem, right? Which is, oh, they have an integration problem, or they have a communication problem, or marketing problem. Um, so it's biting your tongue. Less is more. Let the executive speak. If you're a technical seller, uh, a lot of my challenges early on was I was doing more talking than listening because I was used to being an SE where you're in the room to be heard because you're brought in to do the presentation. And so you need to make sure that you're talking at most is 20%, even less of the time, and practice the rule of paraphrasing when they finish talking. Paraphrase back to them your understanding and see what happens. They will actually continue talking more and they'll start talking more about that. And you can paraphrase again and they'll keep going. That's how you go deeper and deeper and deeper into what the actual problem is.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to focus on just conversations, no solution talk. Even if they ask you, please don't answer with, oh, well, yeah, we can do this and that. Say, you know what? I'd love to come back to you with a well thought out solution. We're not there yet. I still need to learn a little bit more. Uh, don't fall for the trap as a technical person switching into sales of answering every single question for the customer. Your job initially is to seek to understand, not be understood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is that
Beautiful,
helpful?
man.
Yeah, that's super helpful because as you were saying, I was like literally I was actually doing those very same mistakes and still do today and like still
I see
coming
it
to
all
mistakes
the
to do.
time.
Thank you so much.
But
All
once
right.
you crack that, SEs to AEs, man, you're the best. I'm telling you.
Yeah, you got the double skill set. And I just think it's a good place to wrap up for everyone. Just, have conversations, dig deep, listen. So what I'm hearing is this. Can you elaborate a little more? What do you mean by that? Um,
Yeah.
can you just, I'm not fully understanding. Help me.
Yeah.
Can you give an example? What I just heard you say is this, correct? And like just it is, someone said sales therapist. That's what it is. It's like for the customer, you're really trying to understand. And that skill of just having conversations about them and digging deep and learning and being curious is 95% of the qualifying and finding the opportunity before
Yeah.
jumping to the solution. It's the single biggest mistake you can make in sales is when you start hearing jumping on how you're going to help. No, you don't, you're hearing what's here, but what's down here is way bigger. So you're just hearing the very surface level. So you got to dig deep and get to the real issue. Mark, we
Yeah.
are wrapping up. I got another call starting right now, but if people want to connect to you, this is going to be on YouTube. We're going to get this out to our newsletter. Where can they reach you if they want to chat or learn more or hear more
Um,
about your journey?
yeah, my LinkedIn, I don't know my LinkedIn address, but it's Mark O'Leary. And if you type in Sea Central or Captain of Sea Central, that's my boat name,
Yeah,
SEASENTIAL, uh, I should come up.
it's Mr. Mark O'Leary. I'll put it in the chat.
Mark O'Leary, yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
going back into sales? Chris wants to know. Are you going back into sales eventually? You're going to just be on the boat forever.
Yeah, I think I'll eventually go back into sales. Right now, I'm enjoying the cruising life and reaping some of the rewards, fruits of their labor. But yeah, I love sales. I love the getting in there and figuring out a solution for a company and quarterbacking those engagements. So eventually, yeah, I think we'll look forward to going back into sales.
Well, I look forward to seeing you in Southern California when you finally decide to dock back. If you end up coming back here to San Diego or anywhere, I'm going to be the
Yeah.
first one to jump on the boat with my family and Sandy and your family.
Well,
Mark, it's
come on
always
over to the Caribbean.
you look great. You look happy. You look light. You look cheerful, man. I'm so happy for you. And thank you for sharing some of your wisdom and knowledge. This was just stacked with really, really solid advice. And everything Mark said, I second. So for anyone listening, take notes and really apply it. Just again, before you can be a great salesperson, you have to be a great person who's curious, who's focused on serving your customers, and the rest will take care of itself. So
It
I'll see
will.
you guys. I'll see you guys next month for another fireside chat. Until then, happy sailing. Take care, man.
Cheers. Cheers, everyone.